It looks like I'm live. It was saying for a second that I was not. So I'm a little nervous. I hope I'm on. Good morning, everyone. I am Heather Etter, and I am hanging out with you Fave ladies today to talk about forgiveness. We're talking about the 4 seasons of personal growth. I am super excited to kind of dive into this topic. No one seems to like forgiveness. It always seems to be a little bit dancey. So I think it's going to be super fun. I'm going to wait for one more minute and let you guys pop on. I'm watching my camera do funny things. So I'm hoping it's not glitching for you guys. I'm so scared to move anything. It's all propped up. Good morning, Katie. Thank you for joining. I have my blanket in my lap and I have my coffee. I cannot believe how cold it is in the Northwest. We are not used to this. So I'm in my corner. We actually have pretty big windows, and so I'm sitting and feeling the draft. So it's super fun out there. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to be really timely, and I know we can watch this whenever we want to. So the first thing I just want to talk about is the fact that I am completely aware that you probably already know everything I'm about to share with you. We all kind of know the value of forgiveness. I'm actually going to link an article from Psychology Today in the comments when we're done that's about forgiveness, and it's got just some really great pointers from really a psychological and a medical standpoint. But today we're going to talk about the spiritual value of forgiveness. And so the first thing that I want to kind of remind you of is that we are all complex beings. We are mind, we are body, we are spirit. So it is not even possible for us to be fully and completely engaged in our life, to be wholly successful when part of us is out of whack. I mean, even your car, think of the windshield wipers, or I don't know, like the nub on your gear shift, right? Like there's these little tiny things that don't really seem to have much to do with the car and its ability to drive, but really they have a lot to do with your visibility or your comfort when you're shifting, right? So remembering that forgiveness is just a part of what we actually need to do. From a spiritual standpoint, I think that it's important to remember that forgiveness aligns us up with our Creator. And so good morning, Tanya. Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in forever. It's nice to see your little face this morning. Just remembering that forgiveness is not only a mandate of holiness, but it brings us back in right standing with God. And so I think that's the first and most important thing to remember. When we are talking about these spiritual seasons, I think it's really important to remember that these apply to all of our every aspect, every element of our lives. And so I have 4 key points that I want to make this morning, and I do have scriptures that back it up. But again, if you are not like me, someone who declares themselves a Christian, I feel like these principles are still really valuable. And again, that link to the article will be in the comments when we're done. So the first thing is, again, it puts us in right standing with God, and being properly positioned is vital. It keeps us connected with our Creator, who is the source of our creativity. So if we are thinking about our businesses, if we are thinking about our daily lives, the way that we manage our homes, even the way that we develop our relationships with our friends and family, remembering that the Creator is the one who gives us our own personal strategy. My strategy is going to be different from yours. And when we are out of line, when we are walking in unforgiveness, there's a lot of emotion that comes with that. There's a lot of kind of a blindedness that comes with that. And it can really restrict our ability to be in community with Him. Matthew 6:15 says, "But if you refuse to forgive others, your Father will not forgive your sins." And I think it's just super important to remember that, because, you know, we want to treat other people the way that we would like to be treated. We want to walk in the fullness of who we are designed to be. We want to operate fully. You know, we want to get that oil change regularly, keep things going properly, and we don't want to be bogged down by feelings of unforgiveness, anger, frustration. Point 2 is really about forgiving ourselves. And I think one thing that, you know, being the age that I am and being in the lifetime that I am, I've got 2 kids that are grown. I have 2 at home, and I'm starting to kind of battle a little bit with regret. I'm looking back, and there's less time in front of me than there is behind. And I really feel as though it can be really heavy to carry shame. It can be really heavy to not be willing to forgive ourselves, to not be able to release ourselves from whether it's bad decisions or things that happened to us, or the way that we responded to things, or maybe the way that we just kind of shut down and didn't choose to operate in our greatest capacity. That it's easy, especially as business women, to embark in a new venture, or to even turn a corner a little bit, maybe change things up a little bit from a business standpoint, from a familial standpoint. Maybe things aren't operating properly, and we can try to go forward, but the memory of our past and the unforgiveness that we have for ourselves can sometimes leave us feeling as though we don't have the right or the capacity to move forward. And I think it's just really important to remember that forgiving ourselves is just as important as forgiving other people, and just remember that God redeems all things. I had written down Psalm 25:18. Lord, feel my pain and heal my trouble. Forgive all my sins. And I appreciate, I found so many more scriptures about forgiveness and about healing and their connection than I thought possible when I was looking through the scriptures last night. I just thought, wow, this is really interesting, because even though from an experiential standpoint, I understand that forgiveness brings healing, I never fully embraced the understanding that it really is a biblical ideology. And so just set yourself free. Just it's okay. We've all done and said, even 5 minutes ago, right? Things are done, and that's okay. Number 3, heal our hearts. Again, when we are positioned properly, we're able to be healed. I think about right now during COVID, we can't get to the doctor. There's something really powerful about having full access to our doctor, right? When we want healing. Good morning, Christy. Being in the presence of the healer, feeling as though there is that connectivity. When we do not choose to forgive, there's actually kind of a it's like a filter. There's a barricade between the Lord and us, and I think that we still be able to see him, right? Maybe it's a cyclone fence. You can still see through, but you don't have full access. And I think that that's vital in the interaction that we have with God and with other people. I'm pretty sure maybe you can relate to this. I have people in my life that sometimes I have struggled being in their presence because I haven't fully forgiven them, and I'm not fully authentic. I'm not fully engaged in that conversation or in that event, wherever those people happen to be. And I think it's just so important to remember that in every area we cannot be fully engaged. You're so sweet. Thanks, Christy. Mwah. We can't be fully engaged in our work life, in our family, in our health. In exercising. I remember when I took up running, the first couple months, I would cry every time I ran. And I think it was just because I was releasing all of the thoughts and the feelings, and it was hard to fully engage in what I was doing physically because I was so overwrought with the mental piece. And so it's all about healing. Psalm 65:3 says, though we are overwhelmed by our sins, you forgive them all. And I think that is paramount, because whether it's unforgiveness for someone else or for ourselves, because it's a sin, it overwhelms us. I read a quote by Stephen Wright: depression is merely anger without enthusiasm. And I think that as women, again, depression, anxiety, all of those things, if we do not properly manage our emotions and our unforgiveness, it can really lead to destruction in other areas, even our health. And then number 4, forgiveness restores relationships. We can't do this life alone. The grace to allow others to fall will be returned to us as well. I think that relationships, they're allowed to grow and strengthen. And when we engage in relationships fully and we allow other people to fall and then we forgive, that process actually develops us spiritually. It's like developing our spiritual muscles. We are able to give and receive just a fraction of what the Lord has done for us. And I think that that's really vital, whether it's a business relationship, people at church, people in your community, family members, family of origin. When we engage fully in the fact that I am broken and you are broken and we can make mistakes, we can grow and learn from one another in ways that we would not were we to shut those relationships out? And, sometimes, yes, there are unhealthy relationships and we have to do that. But I think that it's really important to remember that one of the greatest things about relationship is people will always disappoint you. I disappoint myself all the time. But it doesn't mean that the relationship is done. And when you forgive, you allow for a growth and a development that is unparalleled if we just choose to step away from it or to shut it out or to remain angry. And your life, your personal life is what makes your professional life vibrant. Our professional lives are a reflection of who we are, especially as entrepreneurs. I know there's so many women that are part of this community who walk in an entrepreneurial sense or who wear multiple hats, and the reflection of who we are into what we do it's paramount. So when we set others free, we set ourselves free, and I think that's the most important thing is how beautiful to be able to allow one another to walk fully. Proverbs 17:9, love prospers when fault is forgiven, but dwelling on it separates close friends. And 2 Corinthians 2:7 says, now, however, it is time to forgive and comfort him, otherwise he may be overcome by discouragement. And whether you believe in sowing and reaping, whether you believe in karma, these things do come back to us. And what we put out is what we receive. And I think that it's vital to remember the power of how we engage with one another, even in a spiritual element. So I wanted to share, I had a personal story that I wanted to, I contemplated if I should bring it up. I thought it was so interesting to me. A couple weeks ago, I got a Facebook message from somebody that I had gone to college with, and we worked together. We didn't always really get along. We were not like the best of friends, and he shared that there was something that I had done 30 years ago in college, 19 years old. And he said, I know that was a really long time ago, and I know that, it's been 30 years, but I'm still really angry at you. And then he began to let me know all the things that he didn't like about who he perceived me to be, based on Facebook, because of course he lives really far away. That's the only way that we relate to one another now is on Facebook. And it was so interesting to me, not funny, but just, he was still so bound by this thing that I don't remember happening. I can't for the life of me. I even prayed about it. And I thought, and of course I apologized because I feel awful that anything that I would do or say would cause somebody else to stumble. But I kind of reflected on it for a while, and I thought, this man has been holding this thing for 30 years. And the way that he perceived who I am, the things that I said, the things that I value, the life that I now live, or what he sees that I live, was all filtered through this broken perspective of who I was 30 years ago when I was a teenager. And it really hurt my heart, but it also really reminded me how completely valuable, yeah, Katie, on Facebook, right? But at the same time, I think that that's a real space for people, and it's just a very it's so vital that we learn to forgive, because it really does permeate every part of our lives. So I just want to touch on the points again. Forgiveness is a choice. Sometimes we make that decision over and over again. Sometimes we wake up and we choose to forgive again, and we might have to do it a couple times before, or 100 times before our feelings align with that decision. But it is a decision, and sometimes we need help for that decision. So if you have a sister that can pray with you, if you can ask the Lord to help you, if you can seek counseling, at the end of the day, my hope, my prayer for each of us is that we could walk in fullness. And I think that forgiveness is by far one of the greatest keys. So, last week we talked about foundation. This week we're talking about forgiveness. We're going to move on. Next week, I'm so excited to just more growth. But we cannot move forward completely and wholly until we've really relinquished our past and kind of resolved where we are. Because at the end of the day, who you are right now is a direct result of everything that's happened to you up until this point. And some of those really awful things actually are what make us the most strong and the most creative and the most driven. And so even those things that other person, God deals with them. You don't have to hold it over their head, because really you're holding yourself hostage. So release yourself today. Be super blessed. Be sure to tune in next Monday at 10 o'clock and have a brilliant day. I'm going to have some more coffee. I'm so cold. Bless you guys. Have the greatest day.